Hey everyone, welcome back to the Point Podcast. We're all doing well. Live here on a Wednesday with lots to get into with middle of August, but we got tennis, we got hockey, we got NFL news that I want to get into. And the World Juniors, we're going to touch on a lot today. 3 games yesterday. I got them all in. Taped the afternoon game, went home and watched that one. Then caught the afternoon, had to bounce between tennis and hockey, split screen, things of that nature. You know how I do business here, and got to get all of that in. And then the late game coincided with the some late baseball action. I got to see Shohei Ohtani pitch a little bit last night, so it was a good night of sports for yours truly. The hours from work to the podcast to go to bed really flew by, and mainly because the go to bed doesn't really last all that long. But I thoroughly enjoyed last night, and last night was fun. But today's episode of the podcast is titled Ugly. And the reason I it's called ugly is there's a lot of ugly stuff going on in the world right now. There's a lot of ugly things going on in pro sports, but I'm not going to talk about the Deshaun Watson of it all. I'm not going to talk about maybe I'll be political a little bit with the live stuff coming up. Not I hope not to be today. We'll stay away from it. There's just some ugly things when it comes to play on the field, certain athletes delivering, and that's really what I want to touch on today. And let's start in a place that you'd never expect to hear the word ugly. Well, maybe you think this team's head coach is a little ugly, he dresses ugly, but the New England Patriots have been nothing short of beautiful the last 20 years. They had the beautiful quarterback. They were winning. They had championships. It was all sunshine and rainbows for the Patriots. But now, as we enter year 3 without Tom Brady in New England, and we enter year 2 at Mac Jones following a successful rookie season, the best rookie quarterback by any metric last season, better than Justin Fields, better than Trevor Lawrence. I won't go on. But the New England Patriots have had a weird start to training camp. A really weird start to training camp, and it starts with Bill Belichick. It starts with the fact that the New England Patriots are spending more on wide receivers this season than any other team in pro football. It's a fact. Look it up. It's a stat. They're spending more money at that position than any other team. Yet, you could argue that the New England Patriots have one of the worst wide receiver groups in the entire NFL. Their best receiver might be Devontae Parker, who got traded from in-division rival, the Miami Dolphins, for a fifth-round pick. Not to mention Devontae Parker, according to Warren Sharp, who's got a great football book that I bought. It was expensive this offseason, but it's helping me with my study. He had the worst. This is all tracked. Warren Sharp's a genius when it comes to this stuff. He does all these sabermetrics. He does analytics. I don't love all analytics, but I do trust this type of stuff. He had the worst separation numbers by any wide receiver in the NFL last year. That's your number one receiver. The 50-50 ball guy that can't even get loose, can't even do that. The Dolphins, who have been terrible for 20 years, decided to get rid of him. But that's not the reason I'm thinking it's ugly in New England. I could go the running game isn't exactly something to write home about. That's not where I'm going. That's not the ugly thing. The ugly thing being the New England Patriots have a defensive coordinator and a special teams coach as their co-offensive coordinators. Matt Patricia, aka Coach Pencil back in Detroit, and Joe Judge, who might have been the most hated man in all of New York City, and Donald Trump still lives there, I believe. Joe Judge was so hated as the Giants head coach, they had to fire him after they said they weren't going to in an off season because the fans hated him so much, because nobody could deal with him. Daniel Jones, who isn't even a good quarterback, said, I can't deal with this bullshit. I cannot deal with Joe Judge anymore. You want to give me a chance? Give me somebody, not Joe Judge. So Joe Judge, who coached 2 years, had no success with the New York Giants. Didn't deserve a third one. I'd say, well, it's a quick reign. Could have been a year. Bad. Got the job for no other reason than he was a Belichick disciple and he was white. Oh, there you went. I did get political today. I apologize. Shouldn't have thrown that in. But hey, it's just the truth. And then there's Matt Patricia, who I'm not saying I'm the snappiest dresser, but I can throw on a button-up shirt. I do it probably 5 days a week. He likes to have a big, long beard, the hair askew. Some might argue mine is, but we'll move on. The pencil behind the ear, and he was just a colossal failure in Detroit. And no, not every coach is a colossal failure in Detroit. Not everyone is. They fire the ones that are seeming to have some success. That's what normally happens to coaches that end up there. Ask Jim Caldwell, who was 9-7, and you fire him. Oh, he was black too. Guess we're getting even more political. But New England has these two running their offense. So far in training camp, Patriots beat reporters. These are people that cover the Patriots on a daily basis. You could argue that beat reporters are the most biased, the most Homer-ish people on planet Earth. They're worse than Toronto Maple Leaf radio guys. That's what I'm saying about beat reporters. Well, Mike Reese, who works for the mothership, Tom Curran, who works for the Boston Herald, do you think they might want to think the Patriots are good, have been saying that they haven't seen a Patriots offense look worse. Completely in shambles. Mac Jones looks overwhelmed. Their plays are getting intercepted. It's ugly, ugly, ugly in Patriotville. Beat reporters are reporting this. There are fights in camp because the offense stinks. Now, yes, they haven't played a preseason game. Is Mac Jones a good quarterback? Yes. But there is a couple things about Mac Jones that just will never change. He's not athletic. There are quarterbacks that don't have great offenses, don't have a great offensive line, that can overcome it to a point because they can use their legs to escape and make plays. Mac Jones can't outrun a snail. He is a statue quarterback. He's the prototypical old school quarterback. The Tom Brady replacement that makes the most sense because they both run the same speed. But he can't do any of that. He doesn't have great receivers. His defense is old, and the coaching decisions make no sense. Two things can be true. Bill Belichick is the greatest coach in pro football history. First ballot Hall of Famer, he'll walk in, no doubt about it. That does not mean he is beyond reproach. That does not mean he is beyond criticism. His drafting has been nothing short of horrible the last 3 to 5 seasons. His one receiver he drafted in the first round was N'Keal Harry, who's been a bust. He's now in the Chicago Bears, who I'll talk about in a couple weeks, and they are going to be a disaster this season. 7th round, he was a first-round pick, last pick of the first round, traded for a conditional 7th. Conditional 7th, basically player to be named later. That is what he brought in return. Offensive linemen that have moved on from the team. Nothing to help. The Mac Jones pick seemed to be the only smart one for the Patriots. But I don't know how you can sell Matt Patricia and Joe Judge to anyone and make them think that's a good idea. Josh McDaniels had some success. Maybe not as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, when he left for Denver the first time, he was a good offensive coordinator. He worked with Tom Brady. They had rapport. Joe Judge was working special teams. He didn't prove anything. he proved anything, it's that he's an incompetent coach. The Patriots have been the gold standard in football, in sports for, as I mentioned, 20 years. They are turning into a joke. They are turning into a mess. Because I don't know what's up. Something smells here. Is Bill Belichick, who does believe he's smarter than everybody ever, which, okay, but there's smart coaches in the NFL. Why haven't you won a Super Bowl without Tom Brady? Why haven't you made an AFC championship game without Tom Brady? Seems like a fair question. He wouldn't answer that question because he'd go, well, no, we're focused on the training camp, and I don't like to talk about the past. That's what Bill would do. He wouldn't answer that question because God forbid he answer a question from the media. But why these two guys? Because they're your puppets and they'll do what you say? Because they look like two buffoons, you can blame them when you lose? But for the smartest coach ever, who will forget more football than I will ever know, if I'm sitting here in Rex, New Brunswick, looking at this and it just looks horrible, you'd think the genius would be able to see it from up close and personal, that this isn't a good idea, that this isn't going to work. Mac Jones is a good quarterback. I think people in the media thought he was worse. I think Patriots fans think he's better than he is. I think in a number of seasons, multiple quarterbacks from this draft class will be better than Mac Jones. I believe by the end of this season, we'll believe that Trevor Lawrence is a better quarterback than Mac Jones. I doubt it for Justin Fields because that offense in Chicago is horrid. Trevor Lawrence for sure. I wouldn't rule out Zach Wilson. We'll see. That does not mean Mac is a bad quarterback, but he is not going to be able to overcome incompetence. He's not going to be able to overcome an offensive line that isn't that great. They traded Shaq Mason, one of the greatest tackles in the NFL, to guess who? The Bucks. Why? Why are you trading good offensive linemen to the Bucks? Why are you getting rid of players? Before, the Patriots got away with it because they won with rosters that weren't that great. Mac Jones isn't Tom Brady. He isn't the baby goat. He isn't the next coming of Christ. He's a solid guy, good guy, Mac Jones, who's a bad interview, who plays decent quarterback. But let's face the facts. He can't run. He's got an average arm, and I'm being nice here. And most games, the Patriots win when the team plays well, not when Mac plays well. He lost both the starts to the Miami Dolphins last year. Why? Miami? Tua Tagovailoa? Lost one start to the Jets last season. I don't know what's going on in New England. Robert Kraft, okay, Bobby Kraft, and Bill Belichick, I don't think they get along that well. I've read that in multiple books. They both deny it, but I've read both books from credible sources that these two just don't get along. Tom was the glue that held them together, like most things in New England. There's just something weird about this New England Patriots situation. Because if Joe Blow, a.k.a. yours truly, in Rexton, New Brunswick, can look at a situation and say, this makes no fucking sense, and Bill Belichick thinks this is a good idea, I'm not siding with Bill Belichick on this one. This season could get ugly for the Patriots because the Bills are definitively better than New England Patriots. And I know Boston, they hate me this week because I said the Boston Bruins are going to miss the playoffs. And I don't think the Patriots are going to be that great either. I'll talk about their team more as I get to the as I get to my division previews, which will continue tomorrow with the NFC East. But I mean, God. It's probably a good thing. Patriots Nation might hate me. They probably already hated me. But this just looks bad. It's tough to see the gold standard go from the gold standard to the outhouse. I don't know what gives here. But I think if you're the best coach ever, you'd want to build a team that you think that can actually win a Super Bowl. Patriots aren't winning a Super Bowl this year. They might not even make the playoffs. And are you building something for the future having these two knuckleheads coaching your offense? You're not going to be able to get another Josh McDaniels. I get that. But to think these two guys are going to push our offense forward, are going to bring us to another level, well, they might bring you to a level, but it's going to be straight down. You're going to be riding, you'll be on a roller coaster, and you get to the end of the roller coaster, and there's no more track, and you just fall down to the ground, and you're done. You're up in flames. I'd worry. Patriots Nation, haven't played a preseason game. That'll start tomorrow. I'm going to watch some of that game because I have issues, and I love the NFL like no other. Patriots Giants tomorrow night. I'll watch some of that game because the Giants have been having a bad training camp too. They are having fights every other day. Daniel Jones is inaccurate. So why not tune in? Ravens are playing tomorrow night, I believe, as well against the Titans. Sure. Titans got Malik Willis, rookie quarterback, likely play a lot of that game. I'll watch some of that. Here's a little inside baseball in my life. It's about 3:30 this morning. I was thinking about going back to bed because I was exhausted, but I couldn't sleep. My brain was moving in all directions. So I looked up the college football schedule for the first 3 weeks, mapped out games that I need to watch, interesting storylines. I started to do that sort of detail on college football. That was at 3:30. I wake up, it's 10 after 4. Well, wake up, technically I was awake the whole time, but I was on looking up college football schedule for 40 minutes. I got into the middle of October before I realized, holy shit, no, I should probably do something here. I was up for the day. But there's a little insight into my life. Looking up college football schedules at 3:30 in the morning on a Wednesday. But I will say, September 3rd, Oregon, Ohio State, locked in. Anybody know Hawaii's playing Michigan this year? I do. Third week of the season. In Ann Arbor, if you can believe it. I think Hawaii, I love those Hawaii games. Started about 1 o'clock in the morning. Perfect for us people that can't sleep watching Hawaii football. Oh, I'm so happy it's back. I'm so happy it's back. College football, just a couple weeks away. But enough of my sick hobby and the way my brain works late at night. Sticking in the AFC East, the New York Jets are in a weird place. I guess they're in a Jets place where they could either be decent or really bad. And they're still they're transitioning. They got Robert Saleh's entering week year 2 as the head coach. Zach Wilson's entering year 2 as the quarterback. And they got some bad news yesterday when they heard that Mekhi Becton, their star right tackle, one of the best tackles in all of football, fractured his kneecap, and he is out for the season. Massive blow to the Jets' offensive line. He was injured for most of last season as well. And, I mean, this is the type of injury that can completely derail a season. This could completely derail Zach Wilson's second season as a starting quarterback, and I truly mean that. He needs that protection. That offensive line needs to be solid to give Zach Wilson time to throw in the pocket. The word is still out on Zach. We don't know what he is. Is he a good quarterback? Is he great? Is he average? Zach, we haven't seen enough of him yet to have a clear-cut decision on what he's going to be. But now it's quick in the NFL. Zach Wilson was taken second overall 2 years ago. After this season, the Jets will have their mind made up on Zach Wilson. Is he a guy like a Baker Mayfield, like a Sam Darnold, like a Daniel Jones, presumably, that you don't pick up the fifth-year option, that you decide to move on from? I don't have a good feel yet. They've upgraded their skill position players, which I'll touch on. They had a very good draft. I think the Jets have a decent roster. It's young. They need time to mesh. They need time to develop. But for a team that has very little confidence, that's had very little success over the last 30 years, the Rex Ryan years were the best with Mark Sanchez at quarterback. This team has been very fragile, has been very inept. This Mekhi Becton injury can completely derail a season for the Jets. We've seen this. Ryan Jensen got hurt with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Then it was reported today that their backup center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was carted off during practice, and Russell Gage, their newly acquired wide receiver from Atlanta, also left practice with an injury. So there's been injuries galore in Tampa Bay and around football. Jakeem Grant, the special teams extraordinaire, formerly of the Dolphins, now at the Cleveland Browns, tore his Achilles. He's done for the season. He's an all-pro special teams player. He's done for the season. One of these worst injuries in pro sports. He's done. It's a nasty scene. Nasty, nasty scene in football right now. But I look at the Jets and the Patriots as potentially big-time just hurdles here. It's better news for the Dolphins and better news for the Bills, who I will say have had really encouraging training camp reports. Obviously, the Bills are the clear-cut favorite. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. Nothing going wrong. They had a quick fight at training camp, but Josh Allen said he loved it. That's just part of the game and moving forward. While the Dolphins, Tua Tagovailoa is throwing deep passes. Tyreek Hill said he's getting locked up by the corners because they're so good in Miami. By Xavier Howard. Tua is the most accurate quarterback in the NFL. It's all positive. Now, it won't be positive forever because Tua's still got a lot to prove. He's got one of the fastest offenses I've seen in my life. And we'll touch on Miami. The Bills and Dolphins seem like they're in a better spot right now. Things can change. But ugly, I would define the Patriots situation for sure. Because it doesn't have any stability, and I'm starting not to trust Bill Belichick. I'm starting to look at him and really ponder, what are you doing? What's your goal? What's your ambition? There's passion for coaching. There's passion for the game. And maybe we should look at coaches like we look at athletes. Where we always say to athletes, well, you should retire. Well, I do this anyway. Roger Federer, Serena Williams, they should retire. Well, why is Greg Popovich still coaching? Greg Popovich is not going to win a title in San Antonio anytime soon. They're rebuilding. Why is he still coaching? He's not going to win there. He must love it, but again, why? You're going to suffer through. They just traded DeJounte Murray. Their team stinks. You're going to pick they're hoping to get the first pick in the draft next year. Why is he still there? When he could have left on top and had good send-off when Duncan was leaving, Ginobili, Tony Parker, you name it. For Belichick, you're hoping, I get why he's sticking around. He wants to do what Tom Brady did. Tom Brady left him and won a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. Well, for Belichick, the best way for him to be successful is for Belichick not to be the GM and for Belichick to not have as much control as he currently does. He's a terrible general manager. He brings in bad talent. He drafts horribly. Look up their drafts. It's ugly who he picks. He shouldn't have control on who the coaches are because it's all nepotism hires. 2 of his kids are now on the staff. His son Steve with the mullet is now the defensive coordinator. He's got another kid on the staff, and he has these 2 buffoons coaching the offense. Bill Belichick has all the control. That doesn't mean it's going to lead to success. It's not the same team it used to be. And unfortunately for Patriots fans who have been used to winning forever, been used to consistency and used to dominance, I don't think you're going to see a lot of that. And I'm waiting to hear how long it takes for Patriots fans to say, we're tired of Bill. We're ready to move on from Belichick and go to another guy. Maybe I'm crazy, but I think this will happen. I think they will. We will start to hear people upset with Bill Belichick because you can love a guy for what he's brought you, but at the same time, if he's not delivering the goods anymore, people will get frustrated. And we're talking about Boston fans. They are not patient. They are not reasonable. A lot of them are not good people. So I wouldn't, if I'm Belichick and this season starts a little rough, I'd maybe be a little nicer to the media. I'd maybe put on a smile every now and then because it's going to be a long, long season for you, my friend. Preseason NFL starts tomorrow. Every team, we saw the Hall of Fame game last week, but we'll see every team play. And it's actually every weekend from now until February, there is football. There is NFL football. Might be preseason now, but every weekend until mid-February, there is pro football. Hallelujah, somebody. I love it. Let's pivot to the World Juniors, which began yesterday in Edmonton. We saw 3 games. Saw the Czechs overcome the Slovaks. We saw the Finland top Latvia, and United States beat Germany. Finland and the U.S. won in convincing fashion, which is no surprise. They're both playing 2 of the worst teams in the tournament. And Czech came back from 2-0 down against Slovakia to get a win in a game where they dominated, but it became close late because of a penalty late in the game. But I do want to touch on all 3 games and touch on players that I thought played extremely well yesterday. I'm going to start with Finland. Finland beat Latvia 6-1. Finland as a team didn't play great yesterday. They didn't have a whole lot of connection. Didn't have a whole... They just were discombobulated. They were turning the puck over. They were loose. They didn't... it looked like they hadn't played a number of months. So that's to be... that's going to happen. That was a game yesterday. It's a perfect tournament. It's perfect time to start with Latvia so you can work out those kinks, hopefully get better when you run up against tougher competition like the Czech Republic and like Canada in the last game of the preliminary round. But something that really was at the forefront yesterday for the Finns was the fact that their top line of Atu Ratti, Ronnie Hirvonen, and Joakim Kemmel, who was the sixth overall pick in this last year's draft, combined for 5 of the 6 goals yesterday from Team Finland. Kemmel scored the first two. Hirvonen added one later, and Ratti also scored. Topi Niemela was a defenseman for Finland, scored while this line was on the ice as well. This top line has chemistry. They play with each other on the power play. They're already looking strong. It was the one line yesterday for Finland I thought played consistently well the entire game. Brad Lambert, who I think extremely high of, the Winnipeg Jets first round pick, who is kind of getting buried on a third line role. I don't think that'll last forever. He scored the other goal in the game, but I don't love his line. He's playing with Hellenius, who doesn't bring a whole lot to the table. Lambert is a guy who can drive offense, who can create. So I look to Finland to shake that up eventually, because I said this yesterday. I think Finland's going to win the gold medal. I think they have a very deep team. They have some elite talent. Their defense core is extremely strong with Topi Niemela. I like Viro a lot. Hellenius is good on that back end. They're extremely mobile. They move the puck well. And they also have Amira in net, who is the starting goaltender for the Kingston Frontenacs this season in the Ontario Hockey League. So the Finns didn't have a great day as a whole when it came to just play. But their top line looked fantastic. Ratty, who couldn't play in December because he tested positive for COVID a day before they left to come, now gets an opportunity to play. Again, he's on the top line. And this team just has good connection. This line had great connection. They knew where each other was on the ice. And for Latvia, I thought they hung in there for the most part. Their goaltender played well. And they lose 6-1, but it wasn't an embarrassing loss. They played hard. They played tough. And at times they really fought in that game. So I think they should be proud of that effort all in all for a team that just got promoted, and you're playing against a team that I think will eventually win the tournament. So not a bad effort. I look for Finland to be much better in their second game because their bottom three lines need to provide more, and I think they'll have more connection and just play better as a whole. Czechs and the Slovaks. This is a tough tournament for Slovakia because they're missing so many key players. They're missing Simon Nemec. They're missing Jurek Slavkovsky. And I said this yesterday with Casey and Seamus. I truly believe that they have some of these key pieces. They're a team that could have went quarterfinal longer. They would have played for a bronze medal. I thought that highly of the team originally when I watched them in December. They have some really high skill, but they're missing it, and it was clearly evident yesterday. Their best player now really is Simon Latowski, who is a goaltender who plays in the United States Hockey League. Unfortunately for him, he just got bombarded with shots yesterday from the Czech Republic, who had a really sleepy, slow start to the game, down 2-0 early. Jan Bednash was pretty terrible in net yesterday, who's the goaltender for the Acadie Bathurst Titans. But the thing for the Czechs is they just have more firepower. David Spacek and David Juracek on the back end for the Czech Republic could be a major factor on them being competitive in this tournament, and they both played fantastic yesterday. They're two guys that just can move the puck extremely well. Juracek is a guy in the power play who got taken 6 overall by the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's got a big shot. He's a big body. He will be physical on the play. I like that about his game. And oddly enough, yesterday he got a number of high-quality scoring chances. Spacek, on the other hand, he's an offensive-minded guy. He's trying to move the puck. He's trying to go. And those two jumped off the screen for me. That I just looked at their back end, and they pushed offense. They never allowed Slovaks to have great opportunities. Slovakia scored 2 goals in the first period. After that, I think they had 2 high-quality scoring chances the rest of the game that were not in the power play. They scored 2 power play goals late in the third period to tie the game at 4, but ultimately the Czechs escaped with a win. For the Czech Republic, Jan Mysak, who's their captain, who played for the Hamilton Bulldogs, who's a second-round pick of the Montreal Canadiens. He had a really tough tournament in December. He played 2.5 games, but I watched all of them live, and my all my thoughts was he didn't look like the player I thought he would be. I thought he'd be the captain, the leader, one of the best players on the roster, and he just wasn't present. He didn't look set. He didn't look confident, and his play really lagged. Yesterday, he played like a. You look at him and you say that's why this guy will make the NHL or have a pro career for many years because of his work ethic. He's a guy that is not overly skilled, I would say. He is more of a guy that will be a second, third line center, and he just works his ass off. He scores a beautiful goal to make it 4-2 for the Czech Republic. But the reason he scores the goal is because he steals the puck in the middle of the ice. He works hard along the boards, and he needs to be a difference maker up front. The Czech Republic does have players that can score goals. Ivan is a guy that really jumps off the screen for the formerly the Cape Breton Screaming Eagles, or the Cape Breton Eagles. Pardon me. He's a guy that jumps off the screen. They have Ravel who can play, but Mishak is going to drive the offense. He's going to be a guy that needs to be a difference maker for the Czech Republic to go deep in this tournament, because other teams are going to have more skill. They're going to have just better players. And he's a guy for me that he needed to be a difference maker. He was yesterday. For the Czechs, their goaltending, I said Jan Bednar needs to be better. He does. He's a guy that at times you look at him and you say, this guy is a really good goaltender. And there's also times I watch him and I say, I don't know what he's doing in the net. He's all over the place. He keeps his arms too high, so they sneak under his arms. So he needs to be better. For the Czech Republic, for the Slovaks moving forward, for them in this tournament now, there is no relegation, so that's a positive thing for all these teams. But they will get to play against Latvia, so you need to win that game to get to a quarterfinal, and that'll likely be a positive. I expect them to finish fourth in this group because I think Canada, Finland, and the Czech Republic are all vastly superior to Slovakia. But go and beat Latvia, get into that quarterfinal slot. And for a number of these teams, and we'll touch on Germany in a second, beating the team that is below you in the standing that is just worse should be your goal. Get to a quarterfinal. That means you get to play an extra game. Who knows what happens in that game? It's more experience for your team. And sometimes that's just all that has to happen for these teams, is just get to that quarterfinal game. It's looked at as a positive thing. And I think of Germany in 2021 with Tim Stützle and JJ Peterka and forgetting his name now, the other forward up front who played fantastic. But they got to the quarterfinal after they lost to Canada 16-3 in their first game. They were competitive. They lost to Russia 3-2 in that game. They turned that tournament around. It turned into a positive thing for them to get to a quarterfinal, and the way that it went. And obviously, he sure won player of the tournament in 2021. He was the MVP, and then he goes to Ottawa and has a good second half of the season. So I think for these teams, sometimes just getting to that place, getting some momentum. A lot of these guys will be back in December to play in the World Junior. You got to hope that your roster's better at that point. So for Slovakia, for Germany, Switzerland to a point, I do think Switzerland will be better than some of these teams. Getting that experience, getting to a quarterfinal. I look at the two. So in one half, we have Canada, Finland, Latvia, Slovakia, and of course, Finland. And then we got Germany, the U.S., you got Austria, Sweden on the other side. So you might think, well, it's not quite as daunting. For Austria, if you can find a way to win, get some momentum. Marco Kasper, who is playing, I watched them play in December. They did not have a great roster. They're going to lose some games for sure, but who knows what can happen when it comes to getting wins. Just being competitive is sometimes, the biggest deal here. And I'm just gonna pull up the Czech Republic roster here real quick because I was watching the game yesterday and I forgot about one of their. I like their back end a lot, as I mentioned. Sposal is decent on the back end too, but Michael Goot is a guy up front that I like. I thought he played well yesterday. Looking through their forwards, Rasavi played well, and Thomas Urban is another guy that played extremely well for the Czech Republic. So I think their roster's decent. I don't expect them to finish higher than Finland or Canada, but I do think that they look better than they did in December. So they have that going for them. Finally, the nightcap was Germany and the United States. And my biggest takeaway from this game was that the United States were firing on all cylinders. They looked like a team that had been playing together for a while, that had been meshing. They played with extremely good pace. They were by far the fastest team of the day. They were aggressive on pucks. They forced turnovers. It was just a really impressive game for the U.S. They didn't have to worry. They played Germany, who didn't put up much of a fight. As I mentioned, Germany had their great run in 2021. They lost so many great players. They weren't able to repeat it. When you lose that much talent in a small country, it's hard to be competitive the next tournament. And they don't have much. Their goaltender Kwap played fantastic, but other than that, they didn't have anybody truly jump off the screen for me. But for the United States, Luke Hughes is one of the most fascinating players to watch in this tournament for me because I want to see what he can be at the next level. And it's funny, he wears number 43, just like his brother Quinn, and he plays just like his brother Quinn. I wouldn't say he's quite as fast. Quinn is a little more shifty, but Luke can run that blue line really well. And I do think he's a little more thick than Quinn, and that I thought he brought a level of physicality to the game. I liked what he can bring offensively. He opened the scoring with a beautiful shot from the point. He's got a good shot. He's he's a player. I think New Jersey has a good defenseman in Luke Hughes. They drafted Simon Nemec, who went second overall. He's he's a guy they hope that they can cash in. But if you can get Luke Hughes playing, if Nemec can come over, you sign Dougie Hamilton long term, maybe New Jersey's defense score can turn around in shorter order than I initially thought. But Luke Hughes impressed me last night. He's definitely a guy that is a carbon copy of his brother, although I think that they do differ a little bit. They are similar. Um, Thomas Bordelot. Here's another player that I thought had a really good game last night for the United States. He's a small little guy, and my player comp for Bordelot is Connor Garland. And I would say more Connor Garland in junior, who at times was infuriating to watch because he was so damn selfish. He was always calling for the puck. He was slapping his stick on the ice, and it was just frustrating to see a guy play like that. But Bordelot has the Garland instincts. He's got a good passing ability. He can also finish. But Bordelot is also a guy that will go into the corner. He'll engage. He's listed at 5'10". I don't think he's 5'10". He looks smaller than 5'10" to me. But he'll go into corners. He'll fight for pucks. And he just had overall a really strong game. He's gonna play power play. I think he should be their guy in him or Luke Hughes should be their guy in the power play to distribute the puck. They both have very good vision. They both can find guys backdoor and give them good looks. So Bordelot jumped off the screen to me. Matthew Nyes, the Leafs prospect, didn't have a great game last night. I think he'll be called upon more as the tournament goes on. They didn't need him to be great last night, and he wasn't, but we'll see as the tournament goes on for Nyes. Slaggerty, another center for the U.S., really jumped off the screen for me. He's another guy that just he had a really strong game last night where he dominated play. He didn't give up on pucks. He was aggressive. So I also liked Slaggerty's game. So there was a lot of really good things to watch last night from the U.S. I thought would have been extremely tough for that team to play better. I will say that to this early in the tournament for the team the way they came out and played, it was impressive for sure because they looked dialed in. They looked completely ready. They looked confident. And as we go through the roster here for the United States, as I'm on the site here and I'm getting to the team, just a second. Here we go. Caden Maburko started in net. He was solid last night. I mentioned Luke Hughes, Brock Faber, who's the captain of this team, really wasn't that big of a. He didn't have a huge game. Brett Berard, who I expect to be good in this tournament, didn't play great. But Riley Duran, who plays at Providence College for the head coach, he he played extremely well. He got an opportunity to play a little more last night. I thought he played well. As I mentioned, Landon Slaggert played well. So it was an impressive night for the United States, and it's only the first game of the tournament. 3 games today. As I mentioned, Canada opens their tournament tonight against Latvia, and they made some lineup notes today. Sebastian Casa was number 2 on the depth chart for goaltenders. He's been bumped down to number 3, so Brett Brochu is number 2, and they're going to run with Dylan Guerin as their starting goaltender for now. Riley Kidney, the Acadie Bathurst Teton prospect, who is drafted by the Montreal Canadiens. He was originally the 13th forward. He is now inserted into the lineup because Brendan Othman, who had 2 penalties in the pre-tournament game, is the healthy scratch for tonight. So he was a little undisciplined. Dave Cameron didn't like that in the pre-tournament game. He's getting penalized for it. Riley Kidney is inserted into the lineup. And so those are the lineup notes today. You got, as I go through, I'll go through the lines with you all right now when it comes to Team Canada tonight. And they do have some firepower for sure, as we've talked about before. But I really want to see what the cohesion is like. That's mainly in the beginning of this tournament. Who can mesh together? I think we will see Kent Johnson and obviously Mason McTavish have some chemistry because they did back in December. But for this team, you got Elliot Denoyer on the 4th line with Forrester and Gauthier. You got Greg on the 3rd line with William Dufour and Riley Kidney. McTavish is likely going to play with Josh Waugh and and Bedard, potential, or Kent Johnson. And you got Bedard with and then you have with Stan Coven and Will Cooley. So a lot of firepower there. This tournament, a couple of big things for Canada is, again, how they mesh together. Are they going to be disciplined? Dave Cameron's already setting the precedent. I like that he's doing this. He's sending a message to the team. I want to see certain guys. William Dufour is an interesting watch for me. He's plays for the St. John Sea Dogs. He's a New York Islanders prospect. The kid has a great shot. He is a lethal goal scorer in St. John. He was at the Memorial Cup. He won Memorial Cup MVP. However, I think the guy's extremely selfish. I think he's more concerned about William Dufour than he is on any team that he's on. And again, I don't know him. I've watched him play several times. That's my interpretation. I wouldn't love him as a guy that was drafting guys. I don't think he's a great teammate. I think he's a great individualist. He's not a guy that loves to pass the puck. I've never seen the guy being Mr. Charlie Hustle. He's on a 3rd line on this team. How does he fit in? Because if he's not scoring goals, if he's not being asked to do that, I don't know where his play is going to go. Xavier Bourgault really had his role in December. Xavier Bourgault is a goal scorer just like William Dufour, but he blended. He played more of a 200-foot game, and he proved that he could do it also by getting assists. He's not just a one-trick pony. So I want to see what Dufour brings in this tournament when it comes to his team play, when it comes to how he approaches it, not as an individualist, but as a guy trying to win a gold medal. He won a Memorial Cup with the Sea Dogs. I can't take that away from him, but I also see him after he scores goals. I also see him on the ice. He clearly is a big fan of himself, I don't think there's nobody that'll be a bigger fan of him than himself. And I just want to see how he can tame that with guys. I look at this team. I think Elliot Denoyer jumps off the screen for me, the Halifax Mooseheads former captain, as a guy that is just completely about the team. He's about winning. Not he's about the team, not the individual. I would say the same thing about O'Reilly Kidney, who played for Bathurst. McTavish maybe can blend in a little with the Dufour because they can be about themselves. But I think this team, and in particular the coach, is not going to take a bunch of individuals trying to take the spotlight away from the team achieving the goal, and that's of winning a gold medal. So Dufour is an interesting watch for me. I'm also interested in the goaltending battle. None of these goalies are jump off the page. Guerin is a draft pick of the New York Rangers, but I think it's very much still an open competition. And the goaltender that plays the best in these early games will be the guy that they ride going into the medal round. And also the back end. You're missing Caden Gooley. You're missing Owen Power. Who is going to step up to play the big minutes? Those two guys would have played half the game for Team Canada if they were here. Does Luca Cormier take those minutes for Team Canada? Does Sabrango get an opportunity to play more? Carson Lambos. To me, they don't have a number one defenseman on their team that jumps off the screen. It'll have to be a guy that does it by his play. I give the edge currently to Luca Cormier. But again, that can change in a hurry. Dave Cameron might like a guy and say, I'm just not going to give you an opportunity in these big moments. So they're behind the eight ball, Canada, a bit in a couple categories. Goaltending is not flashy compared to other teams, and I do think the defense core of these other great teams in this tournament is a little better. For the United States, I mentioned Luke Hughes. I also think Brock Faber is extremely good. For Sweden, you got Simon Edvinsson, who I've been speaking about. I'm looking forward to watching him play. Even in the Czech Republic, for David Juracek, for Spacek. Both these guys, I think, are better than any defenseman Canada has on their roster. So we'll see what Canada's got. They got Latvia tonight, so a good team who's coming off a back-to-back to start the tournament. Looking forward to watching them tonight and seeing who can really step up and who is a key contributor for this team as we move forward in this tournament. Like I said, 3 games today, and we'll see what comes of it as we move forward here. Other NHL news, moving to the NHL, Carolina Hurricanes were the team of note yesterday. First off, the Canes re-signed Marty Necas to a 2-year, $6 million deal. So that's $3 million a year. Marty Necas was a restricted free agent. A very good player for the Canes. He's a guy that can score goals. He can also play a physical game. I think he's a guy that Rob Brind'Amour really likes because he's very much defensively solid. He's aware of his surroundings. He doesn't take a lot of stupid penalties, and he just competes. I like the player a lot. I think it's one of the few good moves the Carolina Hurricanes have made this offseason. Getting Brent Burns made no sense to me. Maybe it was a rift between the Carolina Hurricanes organization and Tony DeAngelo, who signed for $5 million in Philadelphia for a team that is not going to be as good as Carolina. And you replace Tony DeAngelo, who really was the comeback player of the year in the NHL, and you get Brent Burns, who's 38 years old, who still has a big contract, and I don't think is that great of a player anymore. So that was their offseason. Their other news is that Max Pacioretty, who they acquired from the Vegas Golden Knights for practically nothing, it was a salary dump from Vegas. They need to get Pacioretty's contract off the books. It was announced yesterday or last night that Max Pacioretty will be out 6 months with a torn Achilles. This is a big loss, meaning he's going to miss the start of the season, likely be out until at least Christmas. And my thought is, well, did the Canes know Pacioretty was going to miss this amount of time when they initially acquired him? Was this an injury this summer? Because I don't know why you acquire a player like Pacioretty if you can't play him the whole season. Yes, he's injury prone. Yes, he seems to miss a whole lot of time. So maybe that's what you're getting. You're hoping he's got his injury early, he'll come back and he'll be good for us as we're pushing for the playoffs. But I don't. It's big news. It was a news dump at like 10 o'clock last night that Pacioretty has a torn Achilles tendon. I just find it funny that it's not talked about more. That you just seem to slide that in. And again, I think their offseason's been really bad. I think their team got worse, not better. To think that okay, Pacioretty's injured, you have an older Brent Burns, you still have Kokaniemi's contract for 8 years. That makes no sense to me. My big toe has more offensive upside than Jesperi Kokaniemi. So this offseason for the Canes, for Don Waddell, is my thought and is, well, I'm not sure Max Pacioretty is a guy that Rob Brendamore is going to love. I've never seen Max Pacioretty as the guy that's Mr. Effort all the time, that is Mr. Give a shit. At times in Montreal, I don't think he cared enough about losing. Rob Brendamore hates losing. He lets players go from his team every year because he doesn't want them. Maybe that was the reason with D'Angelo, because he quit late in the game against the who did the Lightning beat against the New York Rangers in Game 7. Maybe it was for that reason. I'm not sure Pacioretty fits that mold. I get you acquire him because you need a goal scorer. But for the first 2 months of the season, you're without him. Frederik Andersen's coming off an injury, and we know whenever the going gets tough, he gets injured again. Brent Burns is old. He's missed time over the last couple seasons. This team was in the upward trajectory, and they seem to be hitting a wall every year. Seems to get to the second round, and this team would just fall flat. I worry that this team was hoping by acquiring veterans, by going out in free agency and being aggressive, so to speak, maybe being aggressive for the wrong things, but still being aggressive, that they would get over that hump and get into the next layer, get to that conference final and see if you can get to the Stanley Cup and ultimately win it. I don't think they've accomplished that this offseason. I think they're farther away from winning than they were at the end of last season. They were in Game 7 of the second round with Antti Ranta as your starting goaltender. Now you're looking around saying, we're an older team that isn't as skilled, and I don't think has as much bite. They're not as tough to play against. Tony DeAngelo had bite. He hated playing against the Rangers. He hates the Rangers. Get traded to Philly, signs there, maybe because he gets to play the Rangers so often he hates them. But as I look at this Canes team, I like Nick Cash coming back. You still have Aho, who had a good playoff. Svechnikov did not. He was really MIA for the entire postseason for the Carolina Hurricanes. But they're still lacking that top four that can break through. And I still think they're missing a goaltender. I love Slavin, and Brett Pesce's a solid defenseman. But I look and having Brent Burns as your number 3 instead of Tony DeAngelo is a step backward, not a step forward. This isn't Brent Burns 5 years ago. This is Brent Burns who, yes, like 5 years ago, has snakes, except he's not a snake anymore. He's a mongoose. Snakes eat mongoose. He's more towards the back 9 of his career than he is in his prime. Just because you acquire a big name doesn't mean it's the right move. Just doesn't mean that, the Canes are aggressive. They went out and got Brent Burns. I don't think it's going to work. I think it was a bad trade. I think it's a bad decision. We'll see what happens. But the Canes aren't making a whole lot of sense to me, and it only benefits teams in the Eastern Conference that a team that's been fiscally smart and has been really consistent is starting to do dumb things and spending more money than they were originally. Rogers Cup, or the National Bank Open, as it's now formally called, was interesting last night. We saw a number of upsets, so to speak. Denis Shapovalov returned to court following his lengthy rain delay that began Monday night. He only got to court late um, Tuesday afternoon. He lost that tiebreak to Alex de Minaur. So Denis Shapovalov is now 1-10, has lost 11 matches, and he's just not in a good headspace, and he's losing every time he gets on the court. Emma Raducanu, the 2021 U.S. Open champion, lost her match yesterday to, I think it was Elise Mertens. Sorry, she loses to Elise Mertens, so she's out in the early rounds here in Canada. So Raducanu is out, and Naomi Osaka lost the first set to Kai Kanepi, and then withdrew down 3-love in the second set. And normally in tennis, you're down 3-0 in the second set, you pull the shoot, and you cite an injury, or you say something's wrong, or you don't want to aggravate anything more. You hear all these terms. This is not what this is. Naomi Osaka is checked out when it comes to tennis. She won 4 Grand Slams. She was the next big thing, and since then, since the Olympics, since COVID, I don't know what happened with her mental health. And I'm not going to make fun of mental health. It's real. We all go through it. We all have times where we're down and you're not happy and you're thinking negative things, and that can definitely come to the forefront. I get paranoid all the time. But for Naomi Osaka, she withdrew yesterday. She doesn't have that perseverance anymore. She's lost it. And this is really this new generation of tennis players that is the anti-Big Three men, anti-Serena. Serena wasn't pulling out of a match unless she was legitimately hurt. My first thought is just seeing, when I saw Osaka withdrew, when I read that, when I got back from doing the podcast yesterday, I was like, well, this is so anti-Serena Williams. She would have played that match. She might not have won it, but she would have played that match. She's not withdrawing. She's not getting the check early. She's finishing her job. Now it seems like that's just the way it is. Naomi Osaka has done it. She's a 4-time major champion. Emma Raducanu finished her match yesterday. She's done that this year. She's having a disaster season. She won the U.S. Open last year. She's been to one quarterfinal the entire season. That's not just majors. That's just an event. One quarterfinal. She's been losing. Rankings are dropping. And she is only 19. But we see with Elena Ostapenko. She won the French Open at 16, and she's really been off the map since. She's finally starting to build her game back up. She got to the quarterfinal at Wimbledon. The round of 16 at Wimbledon. Her ranking has risen inside the top 20. She was playing just before I left today. We'll check to see how she did. She lost in the second round of this tournament to Allison Risk, who's an unranked American woman. So that just tells you, even when you get it back, you don't really get it back. So a woman I credit is Coco Gauff. She made the final at the French Open. She didn't win it. She lost to Iga Swiatek, who won 6-1, 6-2 today over Anna Tomljanovic from Australia. But Coco Gauff had a battle today with Elena Rybakina. She won in a third set tiebreak, 7-3. But she made the semifinals last week in San Jose. She's going on a deeper run here at the National Bank Open. She made another semifinal a couple weeks ago. She's playing a lot of tennis, and she's being consistent. That's one thing you got to give Coco, is I think she really loves the game. I'm not so sure that Naomi Osaka ever loved tennis. She was just really good at it. There's a lot of tennis players, but you got to love the game. There's so many great players now. You have to prove that you want it. You have to prove that you have to persevere and prove to people that you're gonna go and you're gonna do it. So those are some of the results today. Big win from Coco Gauff. So Simona Halep is cruising. She'll be playing tomorrow. Karolina Pliskova wins 6-1, 6-1, which was a surprise to me, over Anna Anisimova. And the men's draw, Carlos Alcaraz Garcia, who is the number 2 seed in this tournament. He's out. Tommy Paul, the American, beat Vasek Pospisil yesterday, beats Garcia today. We also have Daniil Medvedev and Nick Kyrgios are playing right now. They're on center court. The fact that this isn't a night match is just a fucking travesty. But it's 5-all in the first set. Kyrgios winning last week at the City Open. Medvedev hasn't played a whole lot of tennis lately. He was banned from playing in Wimbledon because of the war. He can play here in Canada. So those two are battling. Yannick Sinner is up a break. Casper Ruud won today. So a little upset tonight on the men's draw when it comes to night matches. Felix Auger-Aliassime will play Yagota Nishioka, who made the final in the City Open last week, losing to Kyrgios. So they'll battle tonight. That'll be followed by Draper, the unranked Brit, against Stefanos Tsitsipas in the other side, in the back half of the men's draw. But if I know ratings, if I know the way this is going to go, the feature tonight is the World Juniors is on at 7, so that'll be top of mind. But I think people are going to be tuning into the National Bank Open, but the WTA side, the women's draw, which features 2 matches. The first being Belinda Bencic against Serena Williams at 8 o'clock tonight. Serena Williams announced yesterday that she's retiring, or in her words, evolving after the U.S. Open. And she won her first round match. She's only played 2 matches since May. Lost to Harmony Tan at Wimbledon. She won the other day. Bencic is the number 12 seed in this tournament. She's from Switzerland. She's had a fairly successful career. She's a very good tennis player. This will likely be the last time Serena Williams will ever play in Canada, and I expect people in Canada to tune into this game. I expect to see a big crowd tonight because you get Bencic, Williams, and then it's Bianca Andresscu, who had a 2.5-hour match last night. It was only 2 sets, but it was a battle where her serve was broken 6 times, yet she still won the match. She beats Daria Kasatkina, who's coming off a victory in San Jose. She will play Elise Cornet, who's unranked, but she had a deep run to the quarterfinal at Wimbledon. She's a sneaky good player. She's from France. She just seems to have a lot of success in the big tournaments, in the big moments. So tonight you see Bencic, Williams, then it'll be Andrescu, Cornet on center court in Toronto. So I expect to see the people come out for that match tonight, to see these. They'll want to support Bianca. She had a big crowd last night. The crowd was behind her, and it was loud, and people were excited. But you have Serena before that. That is just prime television. That's prime to get to Toronto to watch this tournament tonight, because you'll never get this again. You'll never get your hometown favorite that you want to win in Bianca Andresscu, and you have Serena Williams before her, the greatest female tennis player of all time. You couldn't have drew it up better for this tournament to have Serena Williams, then Bianca Andresscu. I think the ratings will kill tonight. For Bianca, she did not play well last night. Kasatkina played worse. I mean, again, Bianca got broke 6 times. Kasatkina got broke 8 times of her serve last night. She was completely erratic all over the place. I will give Bianca credit. Every time she broke her serve, she didn't get so defeated. She stayed in the points. She played 2.5 hours, and she didn't look spent. It wasn't as if that she played the match and she fell on the ground and was completely exhausted. It is a long match, and now you play every day. If she wins tonight, she'll be playing tomorrow. You play Friday. You know how this goes. Round of 16 tomorrow. Quarterfinals on Friday, semi Saturday, and the final is on Sunday. So winning matches quickly is important, because it's a marathon, not a sprint, especially for these players, because they have the National Bank Open this week. Many of these players will then go to Cincinnati, which is a big tournament in the States. They'll take the next week off, and then it's the U.S. Open. It's the home stretch to the last major of the season. And as we say, that Leylah Annie Fernandez, who's also in the third round, she is in a first set tiebreak with Beatrice Hadid Maya, who's had a very good clay court season. Had a very good grass court season. She won two warm-up tournaments to Wimbledon before, so she's had a very good second half of this season. So these women are on center court battling right now. Arina Sabalenka is playing currently. So a lot of good tennis this week, as I mentioned. The men's draw is gonna with Alcaraz bowing out. It's now extremely wide open. With Kyrgios, if Kyrgios could beat Medvedev, which I wouldn't look at that as a major upset because I think Kyrgios is as talented as anybody. If if Kyrgios could pull off that upset of sorts with Carlos Garcia, Alcaraz Arfia out, I look at this tournament and you look, the Tsitsipas would be the next favorite, but then you also have Rublev sitting there. Felix Auger-Aliassime would be on high on that list for sure. Taylor Fritz is playing Francis Tiafoe next on center court. That should be an interesting match. These two are both Americans. They both play a fun style. Taylor Fritz has had a fantastic season. I think most people view him as the next big American male tennis player that could break through, potentially compete for a major, because no American man has won a major since Andy Roddick won the U.S. Open in 2004. It's been a minute since an American man has won, and they're grasping at straws. I do think Fritz is a legit player. I do think he can win events. So I think that'll be a fun match because TFO is a guy that has all the talent in the world, but he just seems to lose it mentally at times and can't always put it together. So a lot of fun tennis at the National Bank Open. And with the World Juniors tonight, there should be lots of content for people to absorb. Now let's get to Live. As I talked about yesterday with the fellas, Cameron Smith is reportedly going to join the Live Tour after the FedEx Cup playoffs. He is currently the number 2 ranked golfer in the world. He's number 2 in the FedEx Cup standings, and he declined to comment on it when he was asked yesterday. And I mean, I think this is really disappointing for the PGA Tour. I mentioned this is disappointing for Cameron Smith just as a competitor. Yes, he wants to win majors, but there's also merit in winning these events on the PGA Tour, winning the Players' Championship, which he won this year. He also won an event in Hawaii to start the year off. So Cameron Smith is one of the faces of the game. He's the best putter in the world. He could easily win the FedEx Cup title, and what a horrible look that would be for the PGA Tour. What a horrible look to see the guy win it and then walk off into the sun. That is their doomsday scenario, if you will. I think that would be the worst thing that could happen to the PGA Tour if Cameron Smith wins and then leaves with that title and takes the money and goes to Live and plays there to start September. Their next event, the next Live Golf event, is the first weekend of September, so Labor Day weekend in Boston. So he would have to play the next 3 weeks at the FedEx, potentially win it, and then go play Live Golf, then leave. So the PGA Tour still has to figure this out because players are leaving. They're offering them lots of money. I understand why they're taking the money. I'm just, as a consumer, I'm frustrated with the fact that good players are going to this novelty, that are going to this hack league to play golf that isn't important, that isn't competitive. We love sports because of the competitiveness. We love sports because it's, I want to see how I can beat you. What's the strategy? How can I bend but not break? What can I do in this situation? There's none of that in Live. There's none of it. I've talked about it before, but it's just uninteresting. It's not fun. There's nothing appealing about it to me. So it's disappointing to see Cam Smith go to the dark side and participate in this county fair golf. It's what it is. It's merry-go-rounds, the zipper. You might as well be going to the St. Mary's Fair because golf to Live is secondary. It's sports washing. It's how can we be different, but different in all the negative ways. If Live was promoting the game by doing things differently but smarter or competitive or entertaining, I would give them credit. But to this point, they haven't, and I can't really give them credit. They're throwing a whole bunch of dirty money at players, and they're taking it. I get why. I understand it. I don't begrudge them. But when it comes to the product, I'm not sold on it, and I don't think many people will be either because 90% of consumers don't know how to watch it, don't know how to get to it. It has to be quick, easy. The golf radius is old. They don't understand smart TVs. They don't know how to stream stuff. They aren't watching Blackbird on Apple. They aren't watching The Wire on Crave. They're watching network TV. They're watching reruns of Law and Order. They're watching Grey's Anatomy season 34. That's just the way it works. They don't know about these shows. They need their grandkids to come in and show them how to turn on the damn TV. I'm not an ageist, but I think that's just the truth. If I wasn't there to help my parents, I don't think they'd be able to watch Thursday Night Football. I've already been asked the question, how are we going to watch Thursday nights? Games are on Amazon, if you guys don't know. They're not going to be on network TV. Thursday Night Football used to be on TSN. It's now an Amazon product. You need to have your Prime account. They do have it. I told them that, but they said, are we going to be able to get it? Can we get it on the TV? Most people are going to have this predicament. When we get to the first Thursday of the season, putting aside week one, because that's an NBC broadcast, but week two, people are going to be like, where's the football game? It'll be mass panic. And you have to get to your laptop, you have to get to your smart TV and go find it. Because it's not going to be on TSN. It's not going to be where you usually go. This is the changing world that we live in, where streaming services are going to pick up these products because they have more money than everybody else. They have more money than Fox. They have more money than CBS. Now, oddly enough, Fox, CBS, these old school news stations that CBS still has golf, and you look around and ESPN Plus is becoming more and more popular. That's where you can watch UFC. That is where the world's going, streaming. But for golf, the audience is a cable audience. The Golf Channel, you can get on Bell, you can get on Rogers. You can watch it on CBS, on NBC on the weekends. Well, you need to, for the live, getting a TV partner that is network TV is more important than partnering with Apple, partnering with all these things. But that's their next step for me, is how they really put a dent in this, is having it at the same time as the PGA Tour, but where your radius, where your population, where your audience, communications 101, know your audience. Golf's audience is 61 or older. I'm in the minority. I know how to find a streaming service. I have DAZN. I have all these bleeping services, and I pay for them. They're worth it, but they're frustrating at times, as I'm sure you all know. So I think that's the next step. And enough, again, you get rid of the hokey shit, I'll watch it. I don't love what they stand for. I don't love Saudi Arabia. But I'm not going to blame the golfers for taking money, because that's what we do in society. You make as much money as you can. If you can make more money somewhere else, you leave where you are normally. If you can make more money in Miami and leave your job in Ohio, I think unless you're a psychopath, you're going to. At least for me, that'd be an easy decision. Anybody in Miami wants to pick me up, sponsors? I mean, I'll go anywhere, but do this show in South Beach, next little studio. Maybe I could put up with Tampa. I'll even go where the population of the seniors are, the snowbirds. I'll go out there. Doesn't bother me. But hey, just throwing it out there. But other golf news, the judge announced this morning that the three players, Hudson Swafford, as I mentioned, Hudson Swafford, Matt Jones, and Taylor Gooch, who had qualified for the FedEx Cup playoffs, have been denied their entry into this weekend's St. Jude Championship. So the judge said no. So this was a slight win for the PGA Tour. These players cannot compete in it, although there is a counteract where Cameron Smith is going to play in it and he's leaving. So, but no Matt Jones, no Hudson Swafford, no Taylor Gooch, as they're not going to be able to double dip at this point, where they play in the Live Tour and then also participate in the PGA. So we'll see if that changes going into next season or what the PGA Tour does. But that was news this morning regarding these three guys and their availability this coming weekend. Now, before we wrap the show today, just touch on a couple things real quick. Number one, Rougned Odor. What a home run last night. Must have been a great moment for him. Against the Blue Jays hate him. He hates the Blue Jays. Orioles have taken the first two against the Blue Jays, if you can believe it. And Garcia's an eighth inning pitcher. He's coming off a rain delay. He can't close the game. Frustrating for the Jays. I said Bo Bichette has to step up. He did. He hit 2 home runs last night, and they still lose the game. And it had to be Rougned Odor for the Orioles. But this team believes, they got confidence. The Blue Jays, this is their last game before a day off tomorrow at Camden Yards tonight. Find a way to win. Jose Barrios is on the mound. Start to find your game because you don't have a number 3 pitcher right now. I'll say it till the cows come home. But big night for Rougned Odor. Juan Soto hits his first homer as a Padre. They finally win a game. Manny Machado with a 3-run walk-off shot. Mariners-Yankees somehow goes 13 innings, and it was 1-0. 4 innings of scoreless ball and extras where a runner starts on second in every inning. I don't know how that's possible. I hate that managers do not bunt, especially in the bottom of the inning, where you just got to get him over, and you hit a ball into the field, into right field, tag up and go home. Incredibly infuriating. That's where baseball is. But again, Theo Epstein, these guys are trying to improve the game. Managers continue to ruin it because they want to lose themselves. The fact that it went 13 innings last night between the Mariners and Yankees is fucking baffling. Chris Sale had surgery on his wrist because he got hurt biking. I thought he was injured. He hurt his finger in a game a few weeks ago, right before the All-Star break. Now he gets hurt biking. Couple different thoughts here. Number one, is this a real injury, or are they shutting him down for the rest of the year because the team stinks and they're not going to make the playoffs? I don't mean to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not Alex Jones, or I'm not one of these people that are the COVID thing got a third eye. I'm not one of those people, but I do find it fishy. But if Chris Sale is really just this injury prone, which he has proven to be so far in his career, I have just a word of advice for Chris Sale. Do not go skydiving. Do not go bungee jumping. Just simple things. Do not go hiking on a hill or look over, because by your luck and apparently your coordination, you're going to die. You're going to get seriously hurt. So my advice to Chris Sale is do as little as possible when it comes to anything dangerous, anything harrowing. Maybe just stay inside and watch Blackbird, which is a good show on Apple. I recommend it. So Chris Sale, just stay inside. Just stay inside for now. That's what I would recommend. But tomorrow on the show, Thursday already, if you can believe it, World Junior breakdown. We'll talk about Team Canada. We'll talk about all that, their game tonight, and the news and notes. We'll talk about the first round at the St. Jude, where we got the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs tomorrow. We'll talk about that. We saw Ricky Fowler fire his caddy last night, so he's piggybacking off Will Zalatoris, who did it mid-round on Saturday. We'll update on who's winning and things of that nature tomorrow. Talk Rogers Cup as we have all week. And then, as I do every Thursday, tomorrow we are going to be I'll be breaking down the NFC East, go through the division, talk about adds, subtractions. We'll go through the divisions, and then as we get closer to the season, I will even talk about what FanDuel has as the over/under for wins for these teams. We'll get more into the gambling side of things as we get closer to the season. Divisional break, lots of NFL content. As I said, my quarterback list will be coming out very soon. So lots of NFL content, lots of NFL stories. Football's back, baby. Preseason action tomorrow night. We'll even talk about those lines tomorrow night. If you want to lay a bet down, want to lay a buck down on Malik Willis, passing yards tomorrow night or rushing yards. We might even talk about that. So, hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Lots of fun. Rate, subscribe, follow us on YouTube, and obviously follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Because we do this, try to do this 5 days a week, and I want you guys to join in on the fun, join in on the conversation, because it's always better when you guys are engaged and you guys are having fun along with me. So have a great night, everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy. This is to the point.